Now, you might not think it just yet, but I think getting the right golf shoe for your game is as important as getting the right golf clubs. I might need to convince you on that, but at Golf Monthly this year, we've tested over 40 pairs of golf shoes. I've tested over 15 pairs, and what we're gonna do in this video is talk to you about the 10 best golf shoes of 2022. What I'm gonna do is split this video up into two sections, the first being spiked golf shoes and the second being spikeless golf shoes. I'm gonna talk you through the looks, the traction, the comfort, and everything that comes into picking the right golf shoe for your game. And at the end, I will crown one winner of the best golf shoe of 2022. Without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first up, we're gonna start with a spike shoe, and that is the Under Armour Hover Drive 2. Now, this is kind of the epitome of why you would go and buy a spike shoe if you're in the market for one. Grip, a real locked-in feeling, and plenty of support out on the golf course. Now, my favorite part is how locked in you feel with this shoe. And that kind of means it feels like an extension of your foot. I think a lot of us forget that the golf swing is quite an athletic movement, and I think we need to have footwear that supports that, as you would if you were running. You've got a lower profile top to it as well, so it looks a lot sleeker. I think this is a really good looking silhouette. While it isn't the softest underfoot, it's still comfortable, but there are softer spike models out there. That's maybe something to bear in mind if you go for this shoe, but a great feel, locked in, good traction, and sort of a quintessential spike shoe. Okay, next up in the spike category, thank you very much, is the Puma Ignite Articulate. One of the quirkier names of a golf shoe I think I've ever heard. I think you'll agree. It means articulation geometry, which is sort of 360 support around your foot. In practice, I'm going to try and describe how that feels, and it's very good. You get that real locked in feel. There isn't a conventional tongue on this, if you'll notice. It's sort of like a sock at the top with these sort of two black things on the side, for want of a better word, that act as a cage and really lock your foot in as you tighten the lace up. That creates that locked in feeling. Looks wise, this isn't a great leap from last year's version. I think you'll find a lot of Puma shoes look quite similar. So I would like to see Puma maybe move on to something a bit new in the future, but you can't say it's a bad looking shoe. And I especially like it in this colorway. Finally, we'll look at the outsole, plenty of cleats, but also these extra plasticky nubs that help you feel really locked in as well. Okay, next up in spiked, we have the FootJoy Tour Alpha. Now, you might have seen quite a lot of this on tour. A lot of players are wearing them right now. I think you get your money's worth with this shoe. Just looking at it, you can see it's quite technology packed. We've got a very busy rear end here, but the shoe, despite its bulky look, is actually really lightweight, which is great for a spike shoe and a performance spike shoe like this. Now, with these spikes, you get all sorts of grip. I think I would probably say it's the class leader in spike shoes at the minute for sure. But when you do look on top of the shoe here, as you would look down on it if you're walking on it, you do see these sort of protruding spikes here. And while I think that sort of hinders the aesthetics of the shoe a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, it does give you this fantastic sensation of grip and support when you're swinging on the sides of your feet. Comfort-wise, you've got a slightly thicker Ortholite insole, which I think is really comfortable, probably one of the best in a FootJoy shoe for a long time. So you've got a lot of tech going on here, and probably one of the most comprehensive spike shoes currently out there. Okay, next up in the spike category is the Skechers Pro 5 Hyper. Now, you would have seen this exact shoe on the feet of 2022 US Open winner, Matt Fitzpatrick. There's this sort of weird pinstripe thing going on the upper, which I'm not too sure about, but you know, it gives the shoe a bit of texture and a bit of depth. And I think it is a good looking shoe. Could be a bit sportier, but Skechers are definitely getting there. Now, the absolute highlight with this shoe is something called Arch Fit technology in the midsole that is designed to give you less foot fatigue by the end of a round of golf after 18 holes. It's quite a strange sensation at the start, to be honest with you, but once you get used to it, it really is fantastic. The idea is it redistributes the weight around your foot, so you're not putting too much weight on one part, and stops your foot aching. Now, after a couple of rounds trying Arch Fit, I was super impressed. I'll finish really quickly on the outsole. Probably one of the slightly more basic ones. You still got your cleats. There is a little bit of some plasticky nubs, extra bits there, and there's still absolutely loads of grip from this shoe. And that Arch Fit technology really elevates the shoe and has brought it into my top 10. So go try it out for yourself. If you tried it before, let me know down in the comments how you found it, because it is a weird sensation at first, but a really impressive spike shoe. Okay, so fifth and finally in the spike shoe section of this video, we're gonna be talking about the Adidas Tour 360 2022. Now, I'll be brutally honest, if you've got a Tour 360 variant from a couple of years ago, I'm not sure how much benefit there's gonna be in investing in the new one. However, if you've never had one before or your current pair is really old and tatty, there are some great advancements in the new shoe really worth talking about. The first of them is the spikes themselves. Now, if you're looking for a spike shoe, this is gonna be sort of top of your list of things that are good, and Adidas have done it very, very well. Interestingly, unlike all the other models we've just spoken about, the cleats are directly injected into the sole. And this does two things. It means they won't fall out, and I think there's a lot more traction on offer for it. You can see the cleats themselves are a lot wider. They're almost like the top of a mushroom, as opposed to being small and circular, and that gives them a lot more surface area to work over. So the grip was really, really impressive with this new outsole that Adidas have gone with. One thing that Adidas have kept from a lot of their shoes and Adidas Tour 360s in the past is the boost technology in the midsole, which is absolutely fantastic. It's, for me, alongside the Arch Fit technology in Skechers, for the most comfortable ride across 18 holes, as it were, for your feet. And on top of the premium leather that you get on the top, it is a very, very comfortable shoe. So, you know, some sequels are good, some sequels are bad. Luckily for Adidas, the Tour 360 2022 is a very good sequel indeed. Right, on to spikeless shoes now. I think when you're thinking about a spikeless shoe, you need to take away any preconceptions you might have about grip, because the outsoles on spikeless shoes now can compete with the best and with the spike shoes I just mentioned. So bear that in mind, and we're going to start with my first one, which is the FootJoy Pro SL Sport. Now, we've had the standard FootJoy Pro SL released for 2022. We've had the Pro SL Carbon, we had the Pro SL Boa, and then came along the Pro SL Sport. So lots of options if you like a Pro SL. The reason I've gone for the Sport out of all of them is it just surprised me a little bit. I didn't expect FootJoy to do something like this. Firstly, it is unbelievably lightweight. When I took it out of the box, I was genuinely surprised by that. Reason for that, mainly, the sportier look they're going for, is that the upper is no longer leather. What it actually is a thin TPU hot melt over the silhouette of the shoe. It is fully breathable, and I must say that was an impressive point of it, and waterproof as well. And the outsole, again, is the one we've become very, very familiar with. Now, a couple of years ago, I'd have said this was the leader. I think a couple of brands have slightly overtaken it now. Not to say this is a bad outsole at all, but there are some better ones we'll look at later. However, in all conditions, these work. So, you know, love how lightweight it is, and this colorway is to die for. I've tested a lot of shoes this year, and this is the one that my friends and colleagues and people I play golf with looked at and said, wow, that's pretty cool. So that is why it's in my top 10 and why I was super impressed with it. Okay, next up in the best golf shoes 2022 spikeless category is the Echo Biome C4. Yeah, I've tested a lot of golf shoes, but when I'm not testing, this is the shoe I go back to. So why is this the golf shoe I keep going back to time and time again this year? Well, lots of reasons. It's a technology-packed golf shoe. There's 4 or 5 different elements to this I could go into great detail on, but I won't bore you with that. I'll give you the headlines. Number one, and you can see it pretty much straight away, is this distinct outsole, very chunky, which I think really helps the looks. I think these look like a great trainer on their own right. And what's going on here with these holes is what's called exhaust grid technology, which is pulling in cold air from beneath your feet and providing that to the outsole of your foot to keep it nice and comfortable temperature-wise. You couple that with the Gore-Tex they use in the outsole, in the upper here, excuse me, which doesn't let water in but lets sweat out, and you've got your foot constantly at a comfortable temperature. So we've got breathability, which gives you that comfort, and then one of the best midsoles in a spikeless golf shoe. I would say the best out of the ones I'm going to speak about today. Super, super comfortable. And then when you combine that with all the softness of the leather and the breathability at the bottom, it's a really complete spikeless shoe. And then the one thing that surprised me the most, which is why I keep going back to these, is how good they look. Now, I think Echo, much like Skechers, perhaps has a slight stereotype for the age of the type of golfer that might invest in one of their golf shoes. Worth talking about the outsole very, very briefly, and it is very good in all conditions, but I will say it's not the best out of all the spikeless shoes. It's a great spikeless shoe. Yes, it's expensive, but you're really getting your money's worth, and I urge you to at least go and try one out. Okay, next, please, in the spikeless shoe category is the Under Armour Hover Tour SL. Now, this is quite a distinct shoe versus the other 9 we've been looking at today, in that it is a knit upper, and there is a grey colourway to choose from as well. So let's talk about this knit upper and why it might be a great golf shoe for you. I've really enjoyed using it. It's called IntelliKnit by Under Armour, and it uses a mixture of different yarns, lockdown yarns, as you can see here in the red, and stretchy yarns. The lockdown one's giving you more support where you need it, and the stretch one's giving you more stretch and comfort where you need it the most. And it really works well together. I want to talk about the molded heel cup on this one especially, as it sort of creates a vacuum around your heel when you put it in. Now, it's not as aggressive as that in person, but you do get that sort of whoosh feeling when your foot goes in, locks back into that heel, and you tighten the laces. Again, the midsole isn't the softest in a spikeless shoe, or spike shoe for that matter. I'd point you toward the Echo or even the FootJoy for a softer feel. It's still comfortable, but that locked-in feeling is sort of the USP of this one if you want that feeling. Now, I spoke about how the Echo's outsole, the shoe before, was good, not great. This is the great outsole. This is the absolute class leader in spikeless shoes, I think, at the minute. It uses a mixture of plastic and TPU nubs across the bottom, but this whole outsole would work in any conditions, I think. I've been able to test it in wet and dry conditions, and again, I don't really think you can tell the difference between this and a spike shoe. And the benefits here are more so that it's more comfortable than a spike shoe and a lot more lower profile. So add that onto the fact it's waterproof and breathable, and this black version, I think this would work great in the winter as well as it does in dry conditions or in the summer. So once you get over the knit factor, as it were, and the sort of the different style of this shoe, and if you like the look of it, this is absolutely one of the leading spikeless shoes. I wasn't a fan of knit before I tried this, and I very much was afterward, so definitely one to consider. Okay, our fourth shoe in the spikeless category is, thank you very much, the Duca del Cosma Churchill. Now look at this. This is a classic golf shoe, isn't it? Again, very different to some of the ones I've shown you so far. This is a real, true brogue. It uses really high quality materials, Italian Napa leather throughout. It's got this beautiful detailing on the toe, really nicely stitched on the outsole, and you know, you can't really get a more classic silhouette, I don't think. Comes in these two colorways, so you've got this blue navy here, which is quite a rich blue actually in person. Might look a bit different on camera, but I've really enjoyed that. There's also a cognac brown as well for that even more classic look. I need to talk about the outsole on this because again, it's pretty significant, much like the Under Armour I just showed you. It's got this slightly raised heel, which is worth talking about, which aims to reduce foot fatigue by just lifting the back of your feet up a little bit. I would say that definitely works. I like the way that feels, but this is quite a heavy outsole. It's my one criticism of this shoe is, you know, versus the other spikeless shoes and even some of the spike shoes, the overall weight is a little bit heavier. But I think that's been kind of counteracted by the brilliant midsole in this, which is really soft. Again, this, much like Adidas, uses some recycled plastic materials, which I think is great. Might not be for everyone, but I think the Duca del Cosma Churchill is an absolute standout this year. Okay, final shoe in this video to talk about is this absolute stunner, the G4 MG4 X2. Don't remember the name, it's lots of numbers and letters, but a fantastic golf shoe. I just look at it, that has got to be the most individual standout shoe I think I've shown you so far. But if you haven't heard of G4 before, this is one of the standout brands of the year for sure. I've picked this one because it's a cross between a running shoe and a golf shoe. You can do both with it if you want. I haven't run in it personally, but I can attest to it being a great golf shoe. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The absolute standout feature has to be this insole, which you can get on all G4 shoes. It's in all of them. It massages your feet as you go along. You can see these sort of nubs on the inside of the midsole. And as your feet rub along that as you're walking, not a lot, but enough, you get a little foot massage. Now, it's not, like a proper foot massage, but it's enough to genuinely reduce foot fatigue, I've found when I've been wearing these. So that's an absolute standout feature, as is this sawtooth outsole, which is quite different to any of the other Spikeless outsoles I think we've looked at so far, in that it's not got sort of nubs sticking out. It does two things. It gives you pretty good grip in wet conditions and obviously in dry conditions, but it keeps that shoe really low profile. So when you do take it off course and onto concrete or pavements or anywhere that isn't a grassy area, it feels like a normal trainer. So this really is a hybrid golf shoe that can be used on and off the course really, really comfortably. Obviously, it also looks like a trainer. Beautiful chunky outsole, which looks like a kind of street trainer. Again, kind of harking back to the Echo I spoke about earlier, which I obviously loved. It's still a performance golf shoe despite looking like a running trainer and acting like a running trainer. Definitely on the pricier side, but I think £200 for a walking foot massage isn't such a bad deal. Something to really check out this year. And if you've not heard of G4 before, check out the Golf Monthly website. We've got an extensive guide on all of their shoes. So there you have it. Those are what I think are the 10 best golf shoes of 2022. And I promised you at the top of the video, I'll give you a verdict, a #1 shoe for 2022. And it has to be, and some of you might have guessed it already, the Echo Bion C4. I raved about it as soon as I got it. I've been wearing this pretty much all year, as I mentioned, when I'm not testing another shoe. It's been my absolute go-to. Beautiful to look at, beautiful just to step into and play golf in, and I would highly, highly recommend it. If you're looking for a spike shoe and I had to pick a favorite out of the 5 I mentioned at the top, I would definitely go for the FootJoy Tour Alpha. I think that is a really, really complete spiked golf shoe. So what do you think? Have I missed out any at all? Are there any shoes that aren't in my top 10? And is there one out of the 10 I mentioned that you think should have been #1? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. But for now, from West Hill, thank you very, very much for joining me. We'll see you next time.